My ex-husband said I'd never amount to anything, until NATO called during divorce court. She's a nobody secretary, my ex-husband told the judge, his voice dripping with the contempt he'd perfected during our 12-year marriage. I deserve everything. The house, the investments, the pension. I built it all while she played office assistant. Judge Catherine Brennan, a no-nonsense woman who'd been presiding over divorce cases for 2 decades, looked up from the financial documents. Mr. Fitzgerald, your wife's occupation is listed as Defense Department Administrator. Can you clarify what you mean by nobody secretary? Robert leaned back in his chair with that familiar smirk that used to make me feel 2 inches tall. She files papers at some military office. Answers phones. Makes coffee. I'm the senior partner at Fitzgerald, Brennan and Associates. I've billed more this year than she's made in her entire career. That's when my NATO phone erupted. Not my personal phone. Not even my Pentagon-issued secure device. The NATO encrypted satellite phone that only existed for DEFCON-level emergencies. Its distinctive 3-tone alert, a sound that could cut through any noise, filled the courtroom like an air raid siren. General Torres, urgent situation in Brussels. The voice was my aide, Captain Morrison, and the fact that she was calling on this line meant something catastrophic was unfolding. The Security Council needs you on encrypted video in 10 minutes. Russian forces are mobilizing on the Estonian border. The courtroom had gone completely silent. Every eye was on me as I stood, already shifting from divorced woman to NATO Supreme Allied Commander, Europe's chief strategic advisor. Robert laughed, actually laughed. Nice ringtone, Sophia. Did you download that from some spy movie app? Judge Brennan, however, had gone pale. Her father had been military. She recognized that frequency. That's a classified military frequency. Civilians can't access that. Her eyes locked on mine. Who are you? I was already moving toward my briefcase. Your Honor, I need to request a brief recess. This is a matter of international security. International security. Robert scoffed. Your Honor, this is clearly a stunt. She's trying to. Mr. Fitzgerald, the judge cut him off sharply. That frequency is only accessible to NATO command structure. I know because my father was Colonel James Brennan, 3rd Infantry Division. She stood. Ms. Torres, or should I say General Torres? Lieutenant General, I corrected, pulling out my laptop and beginning the complex authentication process for the secure connection. Strategic Operations, Supreme Headquarters Allied Powers Europe. Robert's laughter died in his throat. His lawyer, a shark named Whitman who'd spent the last 2 hours painting me as a gold-digging nobody, looked like someone had slapped him. That's impossible, Robert stammered. She's my wife. She makes my breakfast. She can't even parallel park. But I was already past caring about his disbelief. On my screen, the encrypted connection established, and suddenly the courtroom's small monitor, usually used for evidence presentation, flickered to life with my security override. 5 faces appeared. The Supreme Allied Commander Europe, the Deputy Secretary General of NATO, and 3 other generals I'd been coordinating with for the past 5 years. General Torres, Admiral Richardson's voice filled the room. We have a situation. Satellite intelligence shows 3 Russian motorized divisions moving toward the Baltic states. We need your assessment. I forgot the divorce, forgot Robert's gaping face, forgot everything except the tactical map now displaying on my laptop. How long ago did movement begin? 4 to 7 minutes. Estonia has requested Article 4 consultations. My mind was already racing through contingency plans we'd developed. This matches Pattern 7 from the Baltic Defense Strategy. They are testing response times. Recommend immediate deployment of the Very High Readiness Joint Task Force to forward positions. I can be in Brussels in 6 hours. Negative, General. We need you at Rammstein immediately. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs is already en route. I glanced at Judge Brennan. Your Honor, I need to leave. Now. She nodded, still looking stunned. This hearing is recessed indefinitely. You can't be serious. Robert stood, his face red with indignation. This is fake. This is all some elaborate. That's when the courtroom doors opened and 2 Air Force officers in dress uniforms entered. Lieutenant Colonel Hayes, my military attaché, snapped to attention. General Torres, your transport is ready. We have a C-17 holding on the runway at Hanscom. Flight time to Rammstein is 7 hours. I closed my laptop and turned to Robert for the last time. 12 years of marriage. 12 years of him telling me I was lucky to have him, that my little government job was cute but unnecessary, that I'd never amount to anything without him. 12 years of making myself smaller so his ego could breathe. Robert, I said calmly, everything you thought you knew about me was a cover story. While you were billing hours and cheating with your paralegals, yes, I knew about all three of them. I was coordinating NATO's Eastern Defense Strategy. The pension you want to claim? It's a military pension that you have no rights to. The nobody secretary you're divorcing? I make strategic decisions that affect 900 million people across 30 nations. His mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. General, Captain Morrison prompted from the phone. Admiral Richardson needs an answer on the Estonian situation. I picked up the satellite phone. Tell the Admiral I'll provide a full assessment en route. Initiate Protocol 7 Alpha. And contact the Estonian Defense Minister directly. I'll speak with him from the plane. As I gathered my briefcase, Robert found his voice. This is impossible. You couldn't even decide what to make for dinner without asking me. I stopped at the door. No, Robert. I was perfectly capable of making decisions. I once coordinated the evacuation of 10,000 civilians from a combat zone. I just let you think you were in charge because it was easier than fighting with you every day. His lawyer, Whitman, finally spoke. Your Honor, surely this changes the nature of the financial. Judge Brennan cut him off with a look that could freeze helium. Mr. Whitman, your client just spent an hour committing what might constitute slander against a senior NATO commander. I suggest you advise him to accept whatever settlement General Torres's lawyers propose. I didn't stay to hear more. Lieutenant Colonel Hayes and Captain Morrison flanked me as we strode through the courthouse. Behind us, I could hear Robert shouting, demanding answers, insisting this was all some trick. In the military SUV racing toward Hanscom Air Force Base, Hayes handed me a tablet with updated intelligence. The situation is escalating. The Russians are claiming military exercises, but the pattern suggests they are testing Article 5 resolve. I finished, my mind already fully transitioned from family court to international crisis. How many combat-ready battalions do we have in Poland? 4, with 2 more in Germany on standby. My phone, my real phone, buzzed with a message from my sister. Robert's sister just posted on Facebook that you're lying about everything. That you're having a mental breakdown. I deleted it and pulled up the classified tactical assessment system. In 3 hours, I'd be in the Situation Room at Rammstein, helping coordinate NATO's response to potential Russian aggression. My ex-husband's sister's Facebook posts were about as relevant to my life as a child's drawing was to the Sistine Chapel. 20 minutes later, as the C-17 lifted off from Hanscom, I finally allowed myself a moment to process what had just happened. Below me, somewhere in that courthouse, Robert was probably still insisting to anyone who'd listen that his wife was just a secretary, that this was all some misunderstanding. Lieutenant Colonel Hayes sat across from me in the aircraft's modified command center. If I may ask, how did you manage it? The double life. I pulled up the tactical displays showing Russian troop movements. The same way you manage any operation, Colonel. Compartmentalize. At home, I was Mrs. Fitzgerald. At work, I was General Torres. The problem was, Robert never bothered to ask about the second part. In 12 years of marriage, he never once asked what I actually did all day. His loss? No, Colonel. His choice. He chose to believe I was nobody because it made him feel like somebody. The truth is, I outranked him the day we met. I was already a major when he was still in law school. I just never told him. The secure communications system chimed. Admiral Richardson appeared on the screen. General Torres, the President wants your assessment in 30 minutes. The Russians are claiming we're overreacting to routine exercises. They moved 3 motorized divisions at night, Admiral. That's not routine. That's preparation. For the next 7 hours, as we flew over the Atlantic, I coordinated with defense ministers, intelligence chiefs, and military commanders across NATO. We developed response scenarios, positioned assets, and prepared for every contingency. By the time we landed at Rammstein, the Russian forces had pulled back, their test complete, their message sent, our response measured and ready. 2 weeks later, my lawyer forwarded me a video from the divorce proceedings that resumed in my absence. Robert had tried to claim I'd abandoned the hearing, that my stunt proved I was unstable. Judge Brennan had responded by entering into evidence a letter from the Secretary General of NATO confirming my position, my rank, and my importance to international security. Mr. Fitzgerald, she'd said, according to the transcript, You spent 12 years married to one of the highest-ranking female officers in NATO structure, and you called her a nobody secretary. This court finds your complete ignorance of your spouse's career speaks to a fundamental lack of respect that validates her petition for divorce. All joint assets will be divided according to the Uniformed Services Former Spouses Protection Act, which, I should note, favors the military member when the civilian spouse has shown such blatant disregard for their service. Robert got the house, with its mortgage. I kept my pension, my investments, and something worth more than all of it, my dignity. 6 months later, at a NATO summit in Brussels, the Secretary General introduced me to the assembled defense ministers. General Torres recently provided the strategic framework that prevented what could have been a catastrophic miscalculation in the Baltic states. As I stood to present our new Eastern defense strategy, I thought about Robert, probably sitting in his law office, still telling anyone who'd listen about his crazy ex-wife who pretended to be a general. His colleagues knew better now. One of them had apparently looked me up and found my testimony to the Senate Armed Services Committee, my published strategic papers, my official NATO biography. He'd sent one last email through lawyers. I didn't know. I never responded. Because that was exactly the point. He didn't know because he never wanted to know. To him, I was just supposed to be the supporting actress in his life story. But I was never nobody. I was General Sofia Torres, and while he was calculating billable hours, I was calculating how to keep 30 nations safe. He thought he deserved everything because he was senior partner at a law firm. I knew I'd already earned everything that mattered: respect, rank, and the knowledge that when history called, I didn't just answer. I led the response.